Welcome back to The Foundry by Forge College. Today's explainer is an absolute must. We're getting right under the hood to look at mining mechanics. You know, we talk a lot about the high-level philosophy of Web3, but for a minute, we're going to forget all that. We are getting our hands dirty today to see exactly what these computers are sweating over every single second. So let's jump right in. Here's the blueprint for today's breakdown. We're going to start with a welcome to the factory, then check out the giant combination lock. Dive into hash rate, pools, and difficulty, trace the step-by-step workflow, and wrap up with how all of this actually secures the Bitcoin ledger.
Section 1. Welcome to the factory, bridging the gap from theory to gears.
Okay, so in our previous lesson in this module, we tackled the why. We talked about why mining even exists, which, simply put, is to make rewriting history economically impossible. But today, we're zooming right onto the factory floor. We're looking at the actual, concrete, physical actions that miners take to put together candidate blocks, hash headers, and race against the entire network. This is really where that abstract concept of work becomes a massive operational reality.
Now, to understand how this factory operates, you've really got to understand its main tool, and that is the nonce. What is it? It's just a field inside the candidate block header that miners incrementally adjust. And by adjusting it, they produce a wildly different, totally unpredictable hash on every single attempt. Think of it like the primary dial that miners are twisting. It's kind of like trying to guess your friend's Wi-Fi password by just aggressively typing random words until you finally get let in. Cryptographic hash functions are incredibly sensitive, so changing literally one number in that nonce changes the entire output. The crucial takeaway here is that hashing is wonderfully cheap and fast for the network to verify, but brutally, intentionally expensive for a miner to actually find.
Section 2. The giant combination lock. Cracking the probabilistic puzzle.
All right, picture this entire hashing process as a continuous, high-speed heist. You've got miners all over the globe racing to crack a global safe. But this definitely isn't your standard high school locker padlock. Miners are essentially trying to pick a combination lock with 2 to the power of 256 possible outcomes. That number is literally mind-bending. And here's the craziest part. It's a completely probabilistic puzzle. Your previous failures, they do not get you any closer to the solution. There's absolutely no getting warmer here. You just have to blindly guess as fast as mechanically possible. Every single attempt is an independent pull of a giant slot machine lever.
And this brings us perfectly to the two main forces at play on the network: hash rate and difficulty. Hash rate is just your guessing speed, like how many billions or trillions of times a second can you twist that nonce dial. Difficulty, on the other hand, is a dynamic threshold. Imagine if every time a bunch of new, expert safecrackers joined the heist, the invisible winning combination got even smaller and harder to find. The network actually shifts this difficulty dynamically. It does this to ensure that no matter how much insane computing power comes online, the network is always going to average exactly one winning block discovery every 10 minutes. It is basically a brilliant, self-regulating thermostat.
Section 3. Hash rate, pools, and difficulty. Scaling the operation.
Let's see how this math forces miners to scale up. We have Solo Alice with 1 unit of hash rate, Pool Bravo with 1,000, and Large Farm Carol with 1,000,000. Notice the difficulty? It stays at a constant 1,000 for everyone. Because finding a block is so wildly unpredictable, Solo Alice might literally go years without finding one. It's a total emotional roller coaster. But Pool Bravo, by teaming up and aggregating 1,000 smaller miners, smooths out that variance, expecting about 1 block a day. Large Farm Carol, she expects 1,000. By the way, we dive super deep into Web3 scaling strategies in some of our other Forge College courses, but right here, this perfectly shows why individual miners pool their hash rate together. It's quite literally the only way to turn unpredictable lottery tickets into a steady, reliable revenue stream.
Section 4. The step-by-step workflow. The assembly line in motion. All right, let's follow a single block right down the assembly line. Step 1 is candidate assembly. A miner grabs pending transactions from the mempool, usually orders them by who's paying the highest fee, and packages them into a Merkle route for the block header. Step 2 is trial hashing. The race is on. The miner violently varies the nonce and the timestamps, computing that block header hash millions of times a second. And if they actually run out of nonce space, they'll even alter the extra nonce. Step 3 is discovery. Against all astronomical odds, their equipment pops out a hash that is mathematically below the network's target. Step 4 is network verification. The miner instantly broadcasts their winning block. Full nodes all over the world check the math to make sure the proof of work is valid and absolutely no rules were broken. Finally, step 5 is chain extension. Other miners see this valid block, they accept it, and they immediately pivot to building their next candidate block right on top of this new tip. The assembly line literally never stops.
Section 5. Securing the Bitcoin ledger. Finality through cumulative work. So how does all this chaotic, relentless guessing actually secure a global financial system? It's all about consensus alignment. The nodes are strictly programmed to always follow the longest chain rule, which in reality means the chain with the highest cumulative proof of work. You remember all that massive energy and money spent randomly guessing lock combinations? Well, all of that energy gets permanently infused into the block. Because nodes always follow the chain with the most accumulated work, trying to rewrite history means you'd have to redo all of that computational guessing for every single block you want to replace. To pull that off, a hacker would literally have to outguess the combined computing power of the entire planet. So over time, as more and more blocks are stacked, those isolated proofs convert into true, unshakable ledger finality.
Let's wrap up today's blueprint with 3 key takeaways. First, we've got high-rate sampling. Basically, mining is just a relentless high-speed lottery. Second is regulated cadence. The network acts as a strict thermostat, dynamically preserving that 10-minute heartbeat no matter how many miners come or go. And third, consensus alignment. The system is just brilliant at translating raw, chaotic guessing into objective, ironclad truth.
But of course, all this machinery runs on an economic engine. And that leads us to a really fascinating question. If mining requires all this massive energy, incredibly expensive hardware, and relentless hashing, what happens to the miners' incentives when the protocol suddenly slashes their block subsidy entirely in half? I'm going to leave you to chew on that provocative thought. We're actually going to dissect that exact scenario in our very next lesson: block rewards, incentives, and halving events. To view our full curriculum and master even more Web3 concepts, be sure to head over to forge.college. Thanks so much for joining me on the factory floor today, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.